Greetings. It is Monday, June the 1st, in the nearly half-over infamous year of 2026. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian column On the Road, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Okay, you woke up this morning, you heard that the Americans, Israelis, and the Iranians, to an extent, are at it again. Okay. Ceasefire? Did you ever really believe that was a ceasefire? No, I've seen ceasefires, and that wasn't a ceasefire. It was a lull in the fighting so that the intelligence assets of the United States, Israel, and maybe a lot of Middle Eastern countries, what's left of the Iranians, are out to kind of gather information, and they start shooting again. Again, I don't know exactly what's going on in the White House. Anyone who claims to have inside sources is probably not telling the truth. But this is psychological warfare. If anyone's ever studied such a thing, they're messing with the Iranians, they're messing with the world, they're messing with world markets. Have you seen oil prices going up and down? Or not oil, more closer to home, gasoline. Yeah, that's been fun to watch, hasn't it? You fill up your tank and the next day it goes down 20 or 30 cents, depending on the octane. Most people just look at regular, but some of us buy higher octane gas, and that's been bouncing up and down like a rubber ball on a hot summer day. But no, this is going to go only one way, and that's because of the Israelis. And you've heard about the defense appropriation. Well, we're going to do a special report on that later, but that's how the U.S. and Israel are now going to have very, very close military cooperation to the point that their militaries are going to merge. Not exactly. I've actually read the documents in question that people are referring to, but no, the Israelis are kind of running this politically, and there's no way they're going to put up with the survival of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran, yeah, they want them as a friend again, which they were for quite a long time throughout various times in history. But no, they're not going to wait. They're not going to let these people survive. They're not going to let the crazy Islamic fundies who think the world is coming to an end be around to fund terrorist groups, let alone have nuclear weapons. No. Nuclear weapons are too easy to make. I mean, I know the basic principle. Most people do these days. I don't have access to the equipment to make it, but you know, it's one of those genies that should never have gotten out of the bottle, but out of the bottle it is. No, expect this to be bouncing around for a while, but I do suspect strongly it will be over before it'll have an impact on the elections. I don't think the Islamic Republic of Iran is going to survive as a political entity. There was a report this morning that there were 3 massive explosions in the port city of Bandar Abbas. That's outside of the Straits of Hormuz, and one of the explanations that was given by the Iranian media was that it was outdated munitions that were being detonated. Yeah, right. In a port city, in the middle of a war, you're getting rid of old ammo? Well, if you believe that, I got a whole bunch of cheap skyscrapers for sale in Dubai that I can let you have at discount. No, it's really going to be a very interesting summer. And but I do suspect that this is going to keep going until the forces that do want to see the current regime in Iran overthrown actually overthrow it. And I think that's going to be happening sooner than later. No inside information, that's just a guess. Remember, unless a journalist says he has a source on something and he's being honest about it, well, it's just a guess. I don't have a source on that. I do follow the news closely that comes out of the diaspora. The Iranian diaspora news services are excellent, and they have video coming out. But this is going to go on for a bit until it's over. The Israelis are not going to put up with the Islamic Republic of Iran surviving as a political entity. I don't see that happening. Okay? It wouldn't make any sense. But again, psychological warfare is all about messing with other people's heads. And America, you've had your head messed with for a long, long time. Okay, here in Virginia, the Old Dominion, oldest government in the history of the Western Hemisphere. Well, Spanberger, our governess, they're turning on her. Prosecutors have announced they're not going to be enforcing a lot of these gun laws that she's trying to impose because they're not going to go up against something that's obviously unconstitutional, not just by United States Constitution, but the Virginia Constitution. Liberals don't bother to look at that, do they? But in reality, there's going to be a very, 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 very small chance that this lady's going to pull off what she's trying to pull off. She is already considered by far the worst governor in the history of this Commonwealth, which predates the United States by 100+ years. There's actually, social media sites dedicated to that. I think you're going to be seeing the worm turning because politicians, even Democratic politicians, always operate under self-interest. And they vote for whoever or whatever is going to get them into power. An awful lot of the people that were against segregation, or who were fighting to keep segregation in place back in the day, they eventually, when they lost, they just went off and just did what their black constituents wanted them to do. Strange but true. Politicians are like that. They're into the power. They don't necessarily have the principles. So Virginia is going to be getting more and more interesting. People are organizing. Virginia Citizens Defense League, Gun Owners of America. NRA doesn't really get into these things. I won't get into that sort of debate, but they're not really on the front lines of this thing. It's the other organizations that do put literally boots on the ground. There's a lot of other things that Spanberger's doing, which aren't getting, they're not getting as much publicity, but I think that what you have with a certain class of politician is they push too far. Overreach. It's always the undoing of tyrants. Remember, Virginia, sic semper tyrannis, and don't forget that. Now, other stuff going on in the world. And food prices. Yes, you've noticed. They're going through the ceiling. And also, certain things are disappearing from shelves. Things like peanuts, I've noticed, are not easy to find anymore. Certain types of quality crackers. The food is going up. Milk, let me tell you, here in Virginia, way out in the center of the state, you can get a quart of milk probably for about $1.50. Okay, $1.50. That same quart of milk in the area just outside DC is $3.50. That's the difference in prices. Now, whether that's the actual cost of transportation, which I doubt, or it's just price gouging like you see with gasoline, that might be the case. Marxist capitalism, you charge the people that could afford it more than the people that can't. I've seen some amazing prices. Aluminum foil, check out the price of that. Canned food. It's almost as if tomatoes. Look at the prices. I'm not going to give you what I've been seeing. Go check for yourself. This is probably a result of fuel. Remember, not a drop of oil goes through the Straits of Hormuz the U.S. uses. That's all speculation. It's all speculators making the money at the cost of making our lives miserable. People say, well, that's capitalism. Well, capitalism was Karl Marx's term. I think that is wrong. And just about everybody out there probably agrees with me. So food prices are going to continue going up, and there's going to be more and more action to dissuade people from growing their own food. Honestly, when I was told a few years ago in some parts of this country you can't collect rainwater legally, I thought that was insane, but it is true. There's a lot of insane laws that are being put out there by liberal left-wing bureaucrats who don't know anything they really aren't that bright. They're not that educated either. Yes, they go off to universities, get masters, in some cases PhDs, but a lot of them are still idiots. Really. Just because you've so-called gotten a degree doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. And I think there's many, 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 many examples of that in the last few decades that we can point to. Now, when I say that there seems to be something going on to dissuade us from spending time outdoors, getting exercise instead of going to a gym, going for a hike on the Appalachian Trail, climbing trees, chopping wood, gardening, going out in the garden and grow your own tomatoes for a change instead of paying through the nose for something that's covered with chemicals. Well, guess what? We've got another problem. Now, you know what ticks are. You've heard of Lyme disease, and there's another one now, the Lone Star tick, that spreads a condition that will make you allergic to meat, red meat and dairy products, I believe. That would make life miserable. Well, I have seen these ticks. They do exist. Now, there's a lot of stories that they're being dropped from airplanes. Yeah, heard that before. I don't think that's necessarily true. There's no evidence of it. I think it would require far more intelligence and far more in the way of scientific ability than I think that the average people can handle in government. I don't think you're going to find scientists getting into acts of genocide like that easily, but history has shown us that some will. No, I think the reason for the rise in the tick population, and ticks are serious. I just had one on my leg just last night. I got it in time. It apparently didn't get me, but they're around. In fact, where I am right now, I'm going to be checking myself for ticks right after I finish recording this. But the thing about ticks is that they attach themselves to animals. There are far more deer in North America now than when the first European settlers came. Rats with antlers. Hunting is not as big as it used to be in many places. Some places it's a necessary form of sustenance, but a lot of natural predators got wiped out in many parts of the country, especially the East Coast. And people don't hunt anymore. They don't go off and shoot rabbit, which is quite delicious. I can vouch for that. Or venison, deer, which is really delicious. But because people have had this very strange attitude towards wildlife, like you got to let it just go without any correction whatsoever or any harvesting of it, it's caused this sort of thing. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And liberal, left-wing wokeism, let's eat bugs, climate change is real and all that other stuff. Well, this is what it leads to. Again, Napoleon said, and I'm paraphrasing him, don't put off to your opponent genius when it's actually stupidity at work. And I think that's what you're dealing with right now. So ticks are a problem, but I do not recommend you just stay indoors and play video games. You can get a lot of anti-tick spray. It's out there. It does work. Don't be so squeamish about something that comes from a spray can and is a byproduct of petrochemicals. You don't want to take a risk with your health. Sorry. DDT worked, back in the day. Just it was overused. But the thing with the anti-tick spray is there's a lot of homemade recipes using different essential oils, which are going to cost a lot. It doesn't cost much to buy a can of that stuff. Get it, spray it on your clothing, spray it on your skin, and don't get sick. But get outdoors, because that's what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to go back to nature, because if we do that, they can't control us. Now, speaking of nature and the unnatural, I'm in Northern Virginia right now, bit of a distance from D.C., but it's still Northern Virginia, where data centers are popping up and continue to pop up like mushrooms on cow dung after a rainstorm. They're everywhere. And I was just passing one coming here this morning, which led me to go into what we're talking about right now. And you'll excuse me, there are a lot of airplanes where I'm at this morning. That'll go away in a second. back to the data center. If you've been around the Beltway area, there are a lot of facilities that are designed to be hardened against terrorist attack. Diplomatic things, government buildings, police departments, military bases especially. They have anti-car bomb barriers, those things that pop up so nothing can go through at speed. Well, I passed the data center today that's under construction, and I've gone by it a few times, and just now they have a very, very elaborate gate. And I've done security work, and I know how these things work, but they have the Jersey barriers ready to go, but they also have what I call the anti-truck bomb barriers that pop up. That's designed to prevent a vehicle from just flying right through, whether it's carrying explosives or a team of terrorists, it doesn't matter. Now, data centers, after they're constructed, have maybe a few security guards and a couple of technicians, and that's about it. They're not big job creators. But they're still just a bunch of computers. It's one thing if you have a building like the CIA full of human assets that the bad guys want to harm, but a data center that has first-rate anti-terrorism, anti-insurgency protection, that made me stop and think. That means that they are planning a time where these massive facilities are possibly going to be targeted. I doubt people from the Middle East is what they're worried about. I don't know, maybe it was just somebody had extra money to spend and thought it would look cool, but something tells me that's not the case. Last year, Mr. Starmer, the leader of the United Kingdom, the current Prime Minister, said that without digital ID, nobody in the United Kingdom is going to be able to have a job. Sure, you won't get social services, you won't get anything. If you don't have digital ID, you're going to die on the street. He didn't say that, but that's what he inferred. This is where it's going, people. They want total control of us. And these data centers are not to make cool videos. They're not there to help us with our homework or get better jobs. If anything, AI is eliminating them. They're going to be there to put us under control. And nothing drove that home to me this morning more than that. A very elaborate top security gate. And I'm sure that there's an armed guard there, probably with a patrol rifle, otherwise known as an AR-15. And this is not a military facility that I can see. It's a data center, hardened against people like us in case we decide we don't want to live under the thumb of a computer tyrant. But that's where it's going. So I'm going to ask you this question. What are you going to do when it's finally gone too far? When you're not going to have your big flat screen TV and zillions of channels of garbage and salty snacks and cheap alcohol, and basically being able to just sit on a sofa or play computer games or some other form of escapism. What are you going to do, people? You're going to go out and put yourself in shape so you can fight the good fight? You think that's going to work? You ever notice a lot of these gyms are usually full of people that are very, very unhealthy, and even then, how are you going to fight a drone? Drones are very nasty devices. You can program them to find a specific individual's face and have it go right at them and kill them. Ask anybody in Russia or Ukraine about that one. So people talk about waking up. Well, we're way past the wake-up point. We don't need waking up. We need people that are going to put on their clothes and put on their boots and march out the door. But I have seen so much change in my life, and I've seen too much change in the last dozen years, that unless people really, really, really take a serious interest in not just the world around them, but their very existence, we don't have a chance. The United Kingdom is already lost. It's been taken over by monstrous forces. It's going to turn into an Islamic State, either by intention or by stupidity, probably a combination of both. The United States, people here think that immigration and customs enforcement is somehow the bad guy. They're not. They're here to protect the sovereignty of the country. And if you think otherwise, I would recommend that you go see a professional, really. No, folks, this is a summer where we're going to have a fork in the road, maybe a three-way fork of where we're going to go into the future. Because we have so many things going against us, more than any other generation in the history of humanity, that if we do not embrace our humanity and embrace reality and face it down, face down the demons, and basically defeat them, it's all for nothing. And everybody who came before us will crawl out of their graves and haunt us until we join them. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies. And remember, enemies are real. You got to treat them like enemies. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. I am up on other social media platforms, but not Facebook. Please consider a paid subscription to this service. It'll enable me to keep the lights on literally and figuratively. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World, the Deep State, and all inhumanity must be destroyed. And Virginia, Sic Semper Tyrannis. Good day.